Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Four Wheels Good. In the programme tonight, Mike Rutherford on the world's leading executive cars, the Car Coupe Test and a fascinating insight into tyre technology. But first, Ginny Buckley experiences a day she'll remember forever.
You know those days when you just wake up in the morning and life is sweet? The sun's shining, the sky's blue and you've got a fantastic day ahead of you? Well, today is one of those days for me, because today I'm going racing in a Viper with a Le Mans driver. And the car I was racing in? The Chrysler Viper GTSR. Yes, the arrival at the 1993 Detroit Motor Show of Chrysler's latest concept vehicle, the stunning-looking Viper GTS Coupe, set quite a few wheels in motion, if you pardon the pun. No more than a design study, Chrysler had no plans for the coupe to even go into production. But the interest it provoked convinced them otherwise, and within a few months of its first appearance, the vehicle was in production. By March '96, the totally gorgeous Viper GTS had arrived, a car to drool over, a car to dream about. And for the Chrysler team, a car to inspire the return to motorsport. Yeah,
Chrysler has been involved in motorsports for all of its history. We're most known in the United States for drag racing, the Hemi-powered cars, and NASCAR racing. But when you look at Le Mans, our history goes all the way back to 1931, and that was actually the last time we raced at Le Mans. Chrysler raced at Le Mans in the 20s through 1931, so it actually was 65 years where we had not been at Le Mans when we arrived with the Vipers this year.
Another thing that Chrysler is well known for is producing some pretty amazing cars, and the Viper is one of them. Did this inspire your return to motorsports?
Well, when we originally did the Viper, it was strictly a concept car, and we actually weren't even going to build the car in production. But people had such an interest in the car, and were actually demanding the car, that the executives decided, well, let's actually try to build this car. And that was maybe, I think, the start of really interesting things at Chrysler.
To join them in their return to motorsport, Chrysler have two racing partners, the North American-based Kanaska Southwind and Team Orica, a French team founded way back in 1973 that has fielded some impressive names, Prost and Alesi amongst them. The Orica team employs 48 full-time staff and is based close to the Paul Ricard circuit in southern France. Orica have competed in Formulas 1, 2 and 3, as well as rallying, desert racing, super touring cars and in global endurance racing. It's the endurance racing that the Orica team and Chrysler are aiming to drive to victory in. And it was during Orica's preparation and testing for next season's championships that I managed to hitch a ride with Philippe and Olivier, two of the team drivers, and take in a few laps of the Paul Ricard circuit in Marseille. Preparation for the season is exhausting and intensive. The two Orica Vipers are monitored over every lap. Teams of engineers analyse the Viper's performance, its engine, the tyres. Nothing is left to chance. Everything entered into a computer and analysed to produce the best possible performance from both the car and the driver. And believe me, when you see the preparation and expertise involved in getting one of the Vipers out onto the track, it's quite comforting when you know that you're about to get into one and let a man you've only just met take you to the limit in it, just so he can find out how well his Michelins hold the track. Well, here we are at the Paul Ricard circuit in Marseille, in France. And of course, one thing about France recently is the lorry driver strike. Now, they've been on strike for 10 days and there is absolutely no fuel in the country. It's unbelievable. And you know this thing? It uses 2 litres of fuel for every lap that it does. What I want to know is, what are we going to do if we run out of fuel halfway around? Because I ain't getting out and pushing. What a performance this 2-seater Grand Touring Coupe gives. The 8-litre V10 engine produces a stupendous 615 horsepower, quite comfortably powering the Viper to speeds of around 280 kilometres on the straights. Exciting? Well, what do you think? I like to think I've had a full and varied life and done my fair share of thrilling things, but nothing can prepare you for the feelings that a few laps in a racing car can give you. The adrenaline rush is astounding and addictive. The pulse races, your heart leaves your body, and you'll either love it or you'll loathe it. Which was it for me? Well, I have to say, I loved it.
Well, I've got absolutely no idea what my heart rate is right at this minute, but I've got to tell you that that is the most exciting thing I've ever done in my life. And I know that life is never ever going to be quite the same again after that. Never.
It's a difficult car to drive because we are at the beginning of the car.
Of the development.
Yeah, of the development, and we have a lot of work to do. But we have a good base, yeah, and good team, good engineers. I'm sure we'll win races very soon.
Well, there's certainly a good team and good cars, and I've got to say, very good drivers as well. There are some good drivers. He looked after me so well, and he brought me back in one piece. Thank you very much.
As a company, Chrysler has a philosophy of racing what it actually sells, and when they were developing the Racing Viper, they tried to keep it as close as possible to the original GTS. Now, Chrysler's designers and engineers work closely with the Oreca team on development, which is quite unusual for a manufacturer. By doing this, they believe they can pick up valuable knowledge and information that they can then use in production of their road cars.
For the engineering group to have such an involvement is unusual. Normally, at least in America, motorsports programs are run out of the marketing department. And in this case, it's mostly engineering. And we've got 5 engineers that are full-time on the race car program, and they're right within Team Viper, which is right within Chrysler Engineering. So it's almost a small team within a team. But we also draw on all the resources of the Viper team. So at any time, any of the people in the Viper team can, and they're always willing to help. And we also find that anywhere in the company, people are very enthusiastic. So if we need help in a certain lab to do tests or do design work for us, that everybody within the company is willing and excited to help.
So what are the differences between the Viper road version and the motorsport version?
Well, the main change, and the one that's tough to see, is the body. The body, whereas it looks very close to the GTS body, the race car is made completely out of carbon fiber, and those parts come from Reynard in England. We work with them on the body. The rest of the car was all designed and developed at Chrysler, and the chassis is basically the Viper chassis. The suspension's right off the Viper with slight modifications. The engine, the transmission, all are very recognizable as Viper parts. So the car retains a lot of Viper heritage. And we looked at every part of the car, and if the part would do the job, we would keep it. And if we thought it wasn't up to the job, then we went right to the best racing parts we could get.
The Viper's endurance racing debut was at Daytona in February '96, and it competed for the first time on British soil in September '96 in the Brands Hatch 24-hour endurance race. At the 24 Hours of Le Mans, all 4 Vipers crossed the finish line, giving a Viper its first top 10 finish. Now, these results are made far more impressive by the fact that '96 was really a development year for the Viper.
It was a very quick program from when we actually decided to race the car, and we made our debut at Daytona, and we did have some problems there. But by the time we got to Le Mans, we'd fixed all of our problems, and we finished 3 out of the 4 cars that we raced, and one of them finished in 10th place overall, which was really kind of exceeded our expectations. Our goal was really just to be able to finish the race.
Well, you've had a successful return to motorsports this year. What are you aiming for in '97?
1997 may be some changes. We're looking to drop from the GT1 class down to the GT2 class. When we originally designed the car, we were targeting it more to race against what's the Porsche GT2 evolution. And of course Porsche came out with their new GT1, which sort of obsoleted the GT2, and they moved the GT2 Porsche into the GT2 class. And we'll do the same type of thing. Philosophically, our car is quite a bit different than the Porsche GT1 and even some of the new prototypes that are coming out. So the car really fits better in GT2, and we think that we'll be able to win our class a lot more often, even though at heart we'd still like to be running at the front.
If the size
sight of the Team Orica Viper going through its paces here on the track has filled your head with childhood dreams of becoming a racing driver, then it's not that impossible to turn those dreams into reality. If your numbers come up on next week's lottery, for around £200,000 you can order one of these from Chrysler and race it yourself at Le Mans. The one problem there, however, is you can't take it out on the open road. But this one you can. For £62,000 you can order this, the Chrysler GTS, all 10 cylinders of it.
And we'll have more on the road legal version of the Dodge Viper next week here on Four Wheels Good. Well, after the break, Mike Rutherford on his ideal luxury car and a look at a future practical alternative fuel. Hi and welcome back. Now, if money was no object and you could have any car you wanted, which car would you buy? Well, Mike Rutherford has driven virtually all of the cars in the executive class on sale in the UK. So, which would he choose?
Well, about 5 o'clock yesterday morning, I had the unenviable task of driving the 250 miles from the outskirts of London to here in Manchester to Granada Studios. And I was facing snow and rain and sleet and all sorts of problems on the way. And I can honestly tell you, when you're facing a 4-hour journey like that, it's kind of important that you feel comfortable in the car and you feel secure and you feel reassured in what you're driving. And I can honestly tell you that this car did the job brilliantly. In fact, there's no car in the world I'd rather drive on a journey like that than a BMW. This is the 5 Series. This in particular is the 520i. This is the cheapest model in the 5 Series range. We've deliberately gone for this one because although it's the cheapest in the model lineup, it's the best value by a long, long way. There's no need to spend 30, 40 grand for a 5 Series, which you can do, because you get everything you need and more by going for the bog standard 520i, which starts at around £23,000. This is the SE pack, 25 grand, money well spent. Now, smart BMW buyers will realise that the beauty of this car is it looks identical to the top flight 540i. What that means is you can virtually buy 2 of these, 2 520i's, for the price of 1 top flight 5 Series. Well, the good looks aren't just reserved for the exterior. This to me is the ultimate interior, and again I've got to keep reminding you, this is the bottom spec version, but it's just wonderful. The layout is great, it's so solidly built, there's this lovely black wood finish rather than the boring and rather naff sort of rosewood colour face you usually get in cars like this. And it's all so simple and logical, the controls make sense, they have writing on them that explains what everything is. The light switches are in logical places. I mean, the steering wheel adjustment on this car is marvellous. Infinitely variable. It's impossible for anybody, I challenge anybody to get in this car and not find an appropriate seating position when they're driving. You also get this overwhelming feeling of security and safety. I mean, if you want your kids plonked in the back of the car and you're driving in this sort of weather and these conditions and you really are concerned about safety, confidence is as important as anything, and this car just, well, it just brings out the confidence in the driver. You feel you could tackle any road in this car, you feel very, very safe in this car, and it just makes you want to drive it. It was a sheer pleasure to do some commuting in this car, and that's what it's all about. Well, there can't be too many bottom of the range models around that boast a 2-litre engine, 150 brake horsepower, capable of doing twice the legal speed limit. That's what this car is all about, the 520i BMW. It's so refined, it's so quiet. It's just, you know, forget about Rolls Royces. You'd struggle to find a car that is quieter and more civilized and more pleasant than this. I mean, I know it sounds crazy, but even the sound of the indicator sounds classy. I mean, this is a class act. The fittings and fixtures, the finish, everything about it is just spot on. Got that lovely BMW logo there to remind you what you're driving, as if you need reminding. Of course, there's an airbag there as well. We've got a passenger side airbag too. And as I've said before, this lovely black veneer. It's just sheer class. This car has lots of lovely little touches that the fellow users of the car will enjoy. For example, there's a heater control for either side, so if you're driving the thing and you want to be a little bit cooler because you're driving and your passenger wants to warm their feet up, there are two separate heater controls for you and the front passenger. Lovely armrest in the back for rear seat passengers. And all the dials and switches make a lot of sense. I know it sounds obvious, but you know, by saying on the radio controls bass, treble, fader, balance, spelling those things out, it makes it crystal clear. I spend half my life sitting in cars, I can't work out the volume control from the tuner, from the fader, and it's just so logical, so simple. They've thought about it. The other thing they've thought about on this car is making it a non-smoking car. What do I mean by that? What I mean is there is the little slot there for the cigar lighter, there is an ashtray there if you want it, but they are actually taken out of this car, or rather not installed in the first place. This is a non-smoking BMW. Now, they very generously do that for you free of charge. They call it a no-cost option, rather cheekily. But it's a serious point, because if you're selling a used BMW, you'll get more for that car if you haven't been smoking in that car during your time of ownership. That's a little tip for BMW owners, that's a little tip for anyone selling a car. Your car's worth more money if it doesn't have a filthy ashtray, if nobody smoked in it during its life. You get a couple of £100 more for it on the used car market. Quite simply, it's more desirable. It's a filthy habit anyway.
You know, I think Mike was really taken by that BMW, showing me had to hand it back after the test drive. Well, actually, one of the vehicles Mike owns is an old London black cab. There's no meter or for hire light anymore, so if you hail a black cab in London and it doesn't stop, it could well be Mr. Rutherford behind the wheel, or even Prince Philip, another motorist who's discovered the benefits of buying an old black cab. Well, diesel may be more economical than petrol for heavy mileage, but the jury is still out as to the environmental impact diesel use has. Nicky has been trying out another fuel which may have a brighter future on a Blackpool indoor go-kart track.
Karting. Great fun, addictive even, but it can be a dirty old business, with petrol fumes building up to cause headaches and smarting eyes. But at this new circuit at the Winter Gardens in Blackpool, they don't have that problem, because these karts run on gas. David, you've worked at petrol kart circuits. What's the big difference?
Well, the big difference is they're so safe, so clean, and so quiet, and easier to manage.
I would guess there's a big difference in the emissions, because even after charging around the circuit for a while, I don't smell anything in the air.
Well, there's about 80% reduction in the fumes from this.
But don't you lose something in performance?
We've got a 3% drop in performance, but with increasing the engine size, we've compensated. In actual fact, we've slightly overcompensated, gives us a better performance kart with better conditions.
Beyond the Blackpool trams, electric vehicles haven't ever really taken off because of their limited range and long refuelling time. So could LPG, liquefied petroleum gas, be the answer to worsening air pollution and the associated health problems? Is LPG safe, practical and economical? And how does it affect performance?
At the moment we're running on petrol. When you switch to gas in a minute, you won't notice any difference, I guarantee it.
Can I just flip while we're running?
Yes, just switch it there. There we are, we're now running on gas.
Just Just the same slight bump, and there we are.
Yeah.
So how do all the costs work out, Andrew?
Well, it costs around £1,000 to convert this car. As for the cost of the fuel, that's around 10 to 15% less than petrol in use. Now, for gas to really catch on in a big way, that price differential has to be much more.
At what point would you start getting your money back if you've paid for the conversion and then fuel at the current prices?
If you drive around 20 to 30,000 miles a year and you keep your car for around 3 or 4 years, then it's just about worth doing.
Gas power is increasingly practical, with over 40 filling stations in the UK and gas conversion kits now readily available.
Chris, this is obviously the tank. Where do you put that?
That can be sited at any convenient location in the boot of the vehicle or down one side. It can also be bolted into position and mounted underneath vehicles as well.
So wherever it fits. What about the other components?
The main components here is the gas regulator for under bonnet, the actual gas induction adapter here, and the onboard computer operating the petrol changeover.
Right, so between petrol and gas?
Absolutely, yes.
OK, so is it easy to fit?
Yes, any competent mechanic can fit the conversion, which basically consists of the key components, the regulator, the adapter, and the wiring, which is basically what's soldered into the wiring loom on the vehicle.
And can you convert any car?
Any spark ignition engine can be converted with ease, no problem.
Now, how safe is it to drive around with a gas tank in the
Perfectly
back?
safe. The gas tank itself is structurally tested and is also sealed, so if ever there was a leak of gas, it's automatically vented to atmosphere.
Away from the gas cart circuit, the 14 pence a litre duty is the main stumbling block. Holland's 2 pence a litre is the industry's target.
The numbers of gas converts in Britain are quietly rising, with carting circuits in pole position. But without serious commitment from government to making cleaner fuels like LPG cheaper and more readily available, then most of us will only ever use the stuff in our camping stoves.
Looks a lot of fun. Well, we're going to take a break right now, but please do stay with us for a rendezvous of 4 new coupes and a disused cement works. We'll see you soon. Welcome back. We joined our friends at What Car magazine for a day's photographic shoot for their coupe group test. When we got to the agreed grid reference, Ginny thought there'd been a mistake, but sometimes the most run down of locations can be a perfect backdrop to film beautiful cars.
I was assured by Mike Rutherford that the life of a motoring journalist was full of glamour and excitement. Well, I'm sorry, but standing here in the middle of a disused cement works in Hertfordshire on a very, very cold winter morning, I find that quite hard to believe. Why are we here? Well, the guys at What Car think it's going to be a fabulous location for the 4 coupes in their latest group test. I wasn't joking when I said it was cold, but here's somebody who's got the right idea. Roger, you've got the easy job, have you? Sat in the nice warm car?
Some might say, yeah.
What are you doing?
This is the boring bit when you've got 4 nice coupes to drive. It's getting a tape measure out and measuring the size of them and prodding around in glove boxes and that kind of thing just to see what sort of features the car has got. Sitting in all the seats, front and rear, to see how comfortable they are and whether people will fit. Just routine things, really.
And you really do all that?
Oh, yeah.
On every one?
Has to be.
So all those measurements that we read, they're not just taken from the press pack, you verified them all?
No, all those measurements are done with the tape measure. None of this millimetres rubbish either, it's in inches.
Excellent, that's what we like. What do you think of this one then? We're in the Honda, the new Prelude.
It's very good, very good. It's never even seen it before this morning, hopped straight into it. Traffic on the M25 was nightmarish, so we haven't done too much with it so far. But it seems to ride very well. We know the engine of old, which is glorious. It's got this fancy new gearbox on, which is...
It's a wonderful gearbox, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's either an automatic if you want it to be, but if you want to play at being a British touring car racer, you just push it over to the right and go up to change up and down to change down. So you've got the best of both worlds with it, really.
Excellent. And what about the styling on it? Because in the past, it's, you know, that Japanese styling has been criticised as being a bit bland. Do you think they've got it right this time? Pleasantly
surprised after I saw the pictures on this one, because it did look very dull. But the pictures don't bring out some of the curves and little grooves in it and everything. It actually looks like it's been body kitted. It looks a lot better than I expected it to.
Yeah, I quite like it from the outside. Well, I'll leave you to it.
All right.
We'll come back to you later because you've got 3 more to work out and we'll see how you
I shall be here for a while. I'll be here until it cools down and then I'll go.
I'll go back in the cold then, shall I?
Might be an idea.
Leave you in the warm.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
John, this is an amazing location. How on earth did you find it?
It's just luck, really. I was on a launch of another car, and I was in this area and passed this site, and sort of popped in to see what it looked like, and looked good, so I came back again.
It will look good in the photographs.
Well, I hope so. Yeah.
How difficult is it to keep coming up with new and original locations for cars?
Hard. We discuss it in the office and such like, and you know, we usually know what we're doing before we leave the office these days. So.
We're filming coupes today, but what other cars have you shot?
Oh God, everything from, you know, these nice ones down to your bog standard run around. Everything, cover the whole board, except for the very, very expensive.
Are some cars easier to shoot than others?
Yeah, obviously colour helps a lot. These today have been brilliant, red and that nice blue of the Fiat. Red's a good colour. And basically on a day like this, if it's a dark green or dark anything, it's hideous, because it just soaks up any bit of light that you've got already. And as there wasn't much today anyway, it would have been dark on dark. So.
What about other locations? I mean, this is a very unusual one. Have you had any hard locations to film in?
Well, lots. We did. I helped my colleague Julian last year at the Fire Services College, and that was very tricky. Not only because it was something like -15 chill factor, but obviously we were working with all fire crews and fires as they practiced to put them out. We were photographing them, so logistically we had to sort of park alongside them, but not in their way, but close enough for the fire to be impressive, but not too close that we didn't put the car on fire.
Here we have the 4 coupes in the test, all looking very different, but all around the same price and all chasing the same market. We have the new Honda Prelude arriving in Britain on Valentine's Day. Fiat's 20-valve turbo. They say it's their fastest production vehicle they've ever made. The well-established BMW 318 injection, and bringing up the rear, Nissan's recently upgraded SX. Well, Roger, Fiat's beautiful looking coupe. What do you think? You've obviously driven them before, so what about this one?
This one will sell on 2 things, style and performance, at a bargain price, just over £21,000. I mean, it looks absolutely fantastic. The detailing of it is superb. You've got the fuel filler cap, these lovely round lights at the back next to where we're sitting, the bolt slashes across the wheels, those bubble pack lamps at the front. It's fantastic style.
It just adds up to a beautiful picture, doesn't it, really?
Yeah, and in this colour it's great, isn't it? And the other thing, of course, is that you've got 155 miles per hour performance, so that's what they claim for it, for £21,000. Yes, you can't use 155 miles per hour performance in Britain, but you've got the acceleration and you've got the ability to go and talk about it with your friends as well, haven't you?
Yeah, that's it. Will you be putting it through its paces? Are you going to see if it can do those speeds?
Yep, we will take it to Millbrook to the proving ground tomorrow, and we will find out whether it will do 155 miles an hour or not, even though it's freezing cold and damp.
And hopefully you'll come back in one piece.
So far so good.
Roger, the Nissan 200 SX, how does it match up with the others?
Well, it's a good old-fashioned brawn car, isn't it? 200 horsepower turbocharged engine, driving the rear wheels, which is unusual these days. Most coupes are front-wheel drive. It's more muscle than finesse.
And what do you think of it? Is it living up to what it said in the press pack anyway?
Oh, it's quick and it's lively. It's a little bit crude in some ways. Not the nicest interior, even though it's just been slightly refurbished. They've made it look a bit more aggressive, which I think is part of the image for a coupe. Not done a lot of changes to it, but enough just to give it that bit of extra sharpness, make it look a bit more desirable. I mean, it's a great car, it's great fun to drive. You can throw it around very safely, it's huge fun, but it's just a bit crude compared with the others.
Well, whilst Pete carries on photographing the Honda, Roger's moved on to the BMW. What do you think so far then?
What do I think so far? It actually, not that these things matter terribly with coupes, but it seems to be the roomiest of the four, which quite surprises me because we often criticise a 3 Series saloon for not being roomy enough. When it comes to coupes, all of a sudden it actually looks quite spacious.
Yeah, there's a surprising amount of legroom in the back, isn't there, as well?
Yeah, although it's still tight on headroom, they all are. This is not exactly priority for coupe buyers, but if you've got a couple of growing kids or something, you know, it's nice to know they'll fit in.
Yeah.
You don't have to leave them at home every time you go out.
Any ideas formulating in your mind yet?
Oh, too early yet. This, as I say, we're doing the boring bit at the moment, which is measuring and comparing and getting all the notes down.
There's an amazing amount of facts and figures on this test sheet.
It's the only way I can get my brain around it. If you've got a comparison of everything on there, from the size of it, the power of it, the suspension system of it, the weight of it, the price of it, what it costs to run, and what it's got as equipment, it's a lot easier to just check around than to sort of plough through the back pages of our magazine, looking it all up. I've got it all there at my fingertips.
Roger, how do you go about choosing the cars that are going to be up against each other in a group test? It must be quite difficult to do.
It's a matter of looking at who's likely to buy them and getting them as close together as possible. That means performance, price, image, the whole thing really. It's interesting with 4 coupes like this because people who say that all cars are the same these days, aren't they, couldn't be more wrong. And yet they are all chasing the same sort of buyer.
Yes, and I'm sure you've got your favourite. For me, I think it has to be the Fiat on looks alone. Well, after the break, a drive in the new Daihatsu Move and a personal view of the world of tyres from an industry expert. Hi and welcome back to Four Wheels Good. Nicky Fox and Mike Rutherford have been taking a look at the new Daihatsu Move and discovering that it's got, well, Doctor Who's TARDIS type properties. It does seem to be bigger inside than it is on the outside.
This is the first of a new generation of Oriental Super Minis about to hit the European market. The Daihatsu Move is a combination of city car and mini MPV, and we've found that it turns more heads than a Ferrari, but for different reasons. It might look very strange to European eyes with its funny little bonnet and tiny wheels, but this is a little car with a large heart. Like many Japanese minis, it's been designed to conform to that country's strict parking laws and to take advantage of tax breaks. That aside, it's very easy to get in and out of with this vast headroom and high hit points on the seats. These cup holders could prove very handy. Now, unusually for a car this size, it comes with 5 doors as standard, and the rear one opens sideways. Let's face it, if it flipped up, you'd never get it down again. There's plenty of room in the back, and if your rear passengers don't mind losing some of their knee room, you can move the seats further forward and get even more luggage in. Now, these eye-level taillights are becoming quite the style thing, but I'm not quite sure why they've added the roof end spoiler. To make it go faster, perhaps? Let's find out. The seating position has the upright stance of an MPV rather than a regular saloon, and these huge windows give a light, open feeling. When the car goes on sale in the UK next spring, it'll have an 850cc engine, ample for its light frame. Now, this Japanese version has only 650cc's, but it's still quite nippy. The ride isn't particularly smooth. These small wheels transmit every bump in the road, and the lightweight body means that at high speeds you get a lot of vibration. Also, the engine can get quite noisy. The car will suit people who take short hops around town or day trips with the family rather than serious treks up and down the motorway. Another potential customer is Doctor Who if he ever needs a new TARDIS, because although on the inside it feels huge, on the outside it's actually narrower than a Mini and only very slightly longer. Daihatsu claims that unlike other small cars, it can seat 4 tall people comfortably. So we decided to put that claim to the test. And what tougher testers could there be than the long and leggy Chester Jets? Hop in, lads. Hi. Hello. Too bad. Hey. So at your height, do you find it hard to get in and out of cars?
Getting in was okay. It's nice and high, so...
well, particularly, I'm not a really big guy, you know, I'm only 6'4", and it's pretty roomy for me.
Even at 7 feet, I think you'd be all right in this car, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, because I can look up and, you know, headroom, I think I got about 7 to 8 more inches up there.
There's plenty of room back here for a big man.
There is?
Yeah, there is. Plenty of headroom and, you know...
What about the knee room?
Once you're in, it's fine. There's plenty of knee room back here.
It would be comfortable for a little while, but I don't think for a long journey it would be real ideal.
Well, dismissing the fact they'd probably all be better off in a stretch limo, I think the car came off quite well there. Now, the back seats are slightly higher than the front, so the passengers get a good view, and all the seats are fully adjustable with removable headrests, and the whole thing, in fact, folds flat to become a bed, which provides a handy spot to rest those great long legs after an exhausting game. Daihatsu's named it the Move, not only because of its ability to transport people, but because they hope it will appeal to people's emotions and senses. Well, the sight of it on the roads around Chester has certainly moved a lot of people to laughter, but at £7,000 with a 3-year unlimited mileage warranty, I know who'll get the last chuckle. It'll be one of the most competitively priced small cars on the road. It comes as a manual or an automatic, but Daihatsu is waiting to gauge public reaction before deciding which of the optional extras available in Japan will also be available in this country. I just hope they include the onboard karaoke machine.
The car that you see that we're sat on now, when we bring it to the UK next year, the prices will start from £7,000 for a mini RV that's got 5 doors. It's going to seat 4 people in comfort, lots of space, lots of utility, a 3-year unlimited mileage warranty, Japanese build quality, and we will price the cars on the road, £7,000 on the road, nothing else to pay. It is a very, very comprehensive and I think unbeatable package.
You mentioned RV there, RV being recreational vehicle.
If you look at the car we're sat on now, it is very different in style, and I'm sure it's going to take a few people aback when they first see it on the road.
It's a kind of mini MPV, a mini multi-purpose vehicle, yeah. A mini people carrier in a way. The back seat folds down, converts into a double bed. Make of that what you will. You know, I gather some of the seats can be removed on some of the models. There's little drinks holders in there. It's very much a sort of family car, but kind of quite funky with it, isn't it?
It is actually. I think to some extent it is funky. It's got an attitude, and I think it's going to appeal to people who want to be different. They want to make a statement about themselves. They want to try and use the car for a lot of different uses, and it's really going to have some style. It's going to have some attitude.
An interesting little car. Now, are tyres sexy? Well, I'm sure you wouldn't want to take one to bed with you. Make a dreadful mess of the sheets for a start, but they're not the first topic of conversation around the bar with your car-mad mates. We asked tyre manufacturers to tell us why we should all take a real interest in the world of tyres. Tonight, the managing director of the Continental tyre group, Brian Smith, explains the differences in the types of tyre and exactly how they're made.
Many people think that tyres are simply black and round and they're all the same. The fact is, tyres are very different on different vehicles, different for different customers, for different customer uses. Now I'm standing here beside my own BMW, and on this BMW, which is quite a fast, high-performance car, we have got the Eco Contact CP tyre. This is a very advanced tyre, approved by BMW for this vehicle, and it performs very well for the requirements of me as a driver, and also to suit the vehicle. If we have a look at the tyre itself, you will see that there is plenty of groove, which allows plenty of water dispersal, because that is one of the main features of a tyre in getting the water out the way, particularly at high speed and in cornering. But the great feature of this tyre is it has a silica compound technology in building up the rubber compound. The advantages of this and in the construction of the tyre mean that this car is exceptionally quiet. We'll get about 35 to 40,000 miles from this set of tyres, specifically made for this vehicle and of course my driving style. But of course, not everybody drives a BMW, a car like this. Let's have a look at some other cars. Right, so here we have obviously a Vauxhall Vectra, which is a typical family saloon. And fitted to this car we've got the Super Contact, which is a tyre that has been designed with Ford and Vauxhall and Mercedes to suit this type of vehicle. The tyre itself is a high-speed, all-performance tyre, being good in the wet, good in handling, good mileage, and of course is a tyre that will keep you comfortable in the car. The tyre itself, again, the centre grooves which give plenty of water dispersion and variation in the blocks which helps keep the road noise down. This tyre is fitted to Mondeos, Escorts, Nissan Primeras and the Mercedes E-Class. So clearly a tyre that's an all-rounder and an all-rounder at high speed. So this is the sort of tyre that gives superior performance all round for both the company driver and the family driver. And now for something completely different and a real challenge for tyre manufacturers. It's only a few years ago that the MP vehicle was not really seen on the roads of Europe or the roads of Britain. Now you see them everywhere, and a real challenge for us. What tyres to fit to this sort of vehicle? Take a van tyre and develop it to fit really a people mover, or to develop a tyre from our car range? The answer, of course, was to recognise that this vehicle moves families, moves goods, it's multi-purpose. We need all the characteristics of comfort, stability and safety you expect in a car tyre. So our challenge was to create this tyre, which is derived from a car tyre, but reinforced for strength, for reliability, whatever the load, wherever you drive this particular vehicle. A tyre for this vehicle and for this sector. And talking about tyre patterns, let's look at another one. And here we have a tyre which has got a directional tyre pattern. Directional, well, it says what it is. The pattern is in a fixed direction. And the reason for having a directional tyre, as they do in Formula One when it's raining, is to allow the water, when it's cleared off the road, to end up behind the tyre and not some of it spilled in front of the tyre, where it has to be cleared a second time. So, directional tyres. It's interesting, a lot of people do think a tyre is simply rubber, put in a jelly mould, and you've got a tyre. I think I've got to make it clear to everybody that a tyre is a highly engineered product because it is built. A tyre is built. First of all, you start off by making a range of components which go into the tyre. For example, there are at least 7 different rubber compounds performing different things, whether it is a sidewall giving you the ride or the tread wearing on the road. There are a range of components. They're made separately in the factory. They're then brought together, and a tyre, like a vehicle, is assembled. The tyre is made up of a large number of components, rubber being the largest part. About 40% of the volume of a tyre is rubber, made out of natural rubber and synthetic rubber mixed together. It's then reinforced to give it stability by adding things like carbon black or silica, which is the latest technology. That adds up to about 70% of the tyre. On top of that then, you've got reinforcements, which are the steel belts and the fabric, holding the tyre together, helping the performance of the tyre. And then finally, we've got about 15% chemicals, which helps us make the tyre efficiently and to high quality. And more importantly, when the tyre is on the road being used year after year with all the weather conditions and the effect of sun and so on, the tyre does not deteriorate. People take tyres for granted, or a lot of people take tyres for granted. But when you think about it, a tyre is an integral part of the design and the performance of the car. It is your solus contact with the road. And if you're driving yourself many mileages on business, you're traveling with your family, you're in wet conditions, you're in all sorts of conditions, you're cornering, you're braking, you're accelerating, you have to remember that in contact with the road, you have 4 little footprints like that. That is the difference between safe driving and non-safe driving, the performance of the tyre. And it's not just the tread pattern and how it performs in clearing the water, it is also the construction of the tyre, how well it corners, how well it stops. A very important aspect of a tyre is tyre maintenance. And unfortunately, I think a lot of people don't look after the tyres well enough. They'll service the car, they'll wash the car. How often do they check the tyre pressure? If your tyre pressure is not right, you'll lose braking performance, cornering performance, you'll burn more fuel, and you'll wear your tyres out more quickly. What is easier than to check your tyre pressures, say once every fortnight? The difference will be phenomenal in the performance of the car and the mileage you get out of your tyre.
Sound advice there. You see, there's more to it than you thought, and we'll be hearing from other international tyre manufacturers over the next few weeks. Well, that's almost it for this week, but before we go, I have a question for you. How many owners of off-road vehicles actually take them off-road? Well, the answer, you may be surprised to know, is just 5%. Well, next week, I'm happy to say Ginny and Mike will join the 5%ers when they take the Grand Cherokee Laredo off-road in the beautiful Scottish Highlands. And also next week, Ginny continues her affair with the Dodge Viper. And Sterling Moss returns with some fairly outspoken views on the new breed of Formula One driver. With the start of the new F1 season just 4 weeks away, it looks as if British hopes for the championship rest on David Coulthard. See whether Sterling agrees. Well, that's all for this week, but please join us next week on Men and Motors channel. We'll see you then.